It is obvious that the United States and the collective West must have sensed something beforehand, and they don't mind leaking this information. The following video is the translated version of a video commentary by Professor Shen Yi, an international relations scholar known for his popularity among Chinese youth. The original video was able to garner over 500,000 views shortly after its release. Timing would be the most noteworthy detail of all. Russia had just completed its presidential elections, and Vladimir Putin was once again the president. Voters who dislike or do not support Putin even seem to relish the tragedy by openly supporting this terrorist attack. Since Ukraine's counteroffensive, backed by NATO, descended into utter failure last summer, the Russian-Ukrainian battlefield has witnessed quite a few dynamic shifts. While Russia is continuously making breakthroughs and advancements on various frontiers, the U.S. fails to provide Ukraine significant military assistance due to domestic political processes. Similarly, Europe struggles to provide sufficient military aid to help Ukraine survive in this war of attrition. In this particular context, let's raise the question of who stands to benefit the most from such a horrific attack. To answer this question, I would like to call attention to how similar the Moscow attack is to the explosion of the Nord Stream pipeline. The timing and the execution of both terrorist attacks seem to imply their deviations from conventional terrorist attacks or military actions. Instead, they smell like the product of intelligence and special operations. So far, all 4 attackers of the Moscow concert hall have been brought under captivity. According to some media reports, ISIS has claimed responsibility for the attack. Yet the contours and characteristics of the Moscow attack differs greatly from the suicidal attacks ISIS or other al-Qaeda groups typically carried out, as all 4 perpetrators fled according to a preconceived escape plan after the attacks. Their escape route is particularly intriguing as it was directed towards the borders of Russia and Ukraine, raising Russians' reasonable suspicion of incoming support personnel in Ukraine. Based on this information, I'd like to raise another hypothesis to be tested. This is a specialized military operation carried out by mercenaries hired by a covert planner. Through terrorism, the covert planner sought to instigate domestic panic and fear by indiscriminate slaughter of civilians in hopes of demoralization of the Russian forces. One of the attackers admitted that they were recruited online by an employer offering a reward of 1 million rubles. Let's put aside nationalities of the covert planner for now. It's important to acknowledge that in any country, government departments tend to diverge on policies and strategies. In the case of Western countries, where hierarchical controls among different levels of government can best be described limited, it wouldn't be a stretch to imagine a scenario where money and resources are clandestinely allocated due to negligible oversight and weak control within the system. After all, with each individual receiving 1 million rubles, a total of 4 million rubles, or approximately $43,000 USD, is not an insurmountable amount. One with access to funding of several $100,000 would have enough power to orchestrate a terrorist action, let alone those with access to millions of dollars. In this plan, Ukraine could be assigned the job of providing for weaponry and ammunitions. Who was the mastermind behind this terrorist attack? 2 points have particularly caught my eyes in this attack. First, how did these attackers successfully bypass Russia's security systems and infiltrate Russia? If this was orchestrated by a group like ISIS, how did they acquire sufficient intelligence on Russia's security network to facilitate the entry of personnel and equipment for the attack, especially considering they are recruiting internationally? Ukraine alone didn't seem like a convincing candidate for carrying out such a massive operation. Secondly, it is obvious that the United States and the collective West must have sensed something beforehand, and they don't mind leaking this information. The security alert issued by the U.S. Embassy in Russia 2 weeks prior to the attack advised against gatherings within the next 48 hours, with the category of concerts specifically singled out. So it's possible that this was a relatively random and spontaneous plan, organized by a specific group of people with a trial-and-error mentality. It might have involved commercialized behavior such as subcontracting at various levels, with no ability or interest in mobilizing regular forces. Given the current situation in the Russia-Ukraine conflict, Involving regular forces would be hard to imagine unless it's for operations against political leaders. However, with the passage of time, original plans might go awry due to premature exposure. It is possible that the planner eventually chose a random concert just to get through the motion, to show that they dealt a heavy blow to Putin's prestige. As for who the mastermind behind this terrorist attack is, we should not trace the 4 perpetrators who directly executed it that matter, but the other 7 individuals, especially if those responsible for liaison can be found among them. It is them who can provide with the information needed to identify the mastermind behind the scenes. Who is the beneficiary of this terrorist attack? For Russia, this attack is akin to pointing a small pistol against a several meters tall Alaskan brown bear. It would injure the bear, but it doesn't pose threat to its life. However, once provoked, the bear can become greatly aggressive. All clues gathered so far seem to point to Ukraine as the mastermind behind this scene. Of course, this is just an assumption. If we follow this assumption, the objective appears to be prolonging the Russia-Ukraine conflict, which would certainly lead to losses for Russia and depletion of its resources. However, those who provide assistance to Ukraine, such as Europe, might stand to lose more in the process of depleting Russia. As Henry Kissinger once said, it may be dangerous to be America's enemy, but to be America's friend is fatal. The United States can put its allies in mortal danger. Honestly, I have a hard time seeing the United States profiting from this attack as a whole, but intermediaries, war profiteers, and those who thrive on conflict and the Cold War might indeed benefit from it.